What's up, y'all? So today's guest is not only my brother-in-law, he's actually a master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. So it's pretty cool that I don't get to really talk to him about his service and what he does for this country and what he does in the Air Force. So today we get to talk about that stuff, and he gives me great insight about what's going on right now and everything that he does and what he has done in his almost 20-year career. So it's a great conversation. Hope you all enjoy it. Today's guest, Chris Rabenold. It's my foundation. It's my faith. It's my work ethic. It's my drive. It's everything that I've tried to build for myself that has made me who I am. I'll do what it takes to make you believe.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
Oh, man, all good things. How's my mic come through? I get complained at when I teach classes on this thing. It's too quiet. You hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you good.
All right, cool.
Where are you at now? San Antonio?
Yeah, we're down in San Antonio. So working at recruiting headquarters for the Air Force. So now I run the training programs down here. So train a bunch of new recruiters and other experienced recruiters too, because they move up, kind of how I did in the game. So I kind of teach them the ways of continuing their careers in recruiting. And then I manage some of the big programs, that we put on every year. One of them is our Operation Blue Suit. So it's a big celebration and recognition program. And that thing kicks off on Monday. So that's what I've been doing nonstop. Just busy, busy, busy.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what is this? Is this which station? Like, how many places have you been while being in the Air Force so far?
Oh, man. So let's see. So everybody comes through Lackland at San Antonio, right? So for that basic training piece. And then from there, I went to Mississippi, Keesler, for learning how to do my job, that technical school piece. And spent almost a year there doing ground radar, education type stuff. And then my first base was New Mexico, Cannon Air Force Base. And that's where I met Lorenza, of course, became my lovely bride and mother of all our crazy kids. So that was my first real assignment in the Air Force as a radar person. And then I deployed to Iraq in 2005. And then as soon as I got back from that, I was signed up for recruiting duty. So went to school there early 06 to become a recruiter. And then my first recruiting assignment was Memphis, Tennessee. Then I went up there by y'all. Right after that, came up to Philly, did some health professions recruiting doctors, dentists, nurses, all that stuff. And then let's see, from there we went to Seattle, Washington. So I was up in the Pacific Northwest for three plus years up there, working at that military entrance processing station. That was a boring gig. And then I went and ran a flight of recruiters in Kansas. So right in the middle of the country, Kansas City area. Did that for just over 3 years. And then now I'm down here in San Antonio. So it's it's been a wild ride. So it's weird in recruiting because you're not always by a base. So this is the first time that I've been actually back at a base in, oh my goodness, like 13 years. So it's been wild, but it's cool. I've settled in now. Been here almost a year, right at a year. So we like it here. I like it here. The wife's not so much yet. It's growing on her though. I know it is.
Yeah. So it's been, what is it, 20 years altogether?
Almost. So October 2nd, I'll hit my 20-year mark. Yeah.
Hey guys, let's take a break for a second. Just want to talk to you about Strong Tower Nutrition, my supplement store. If you go to stnutrition.com, you'll find brands like Giant, from NutriKey, to Run Everything Labs, to Black Market Labs. Guys, these are brands that you don't find in these supplement stores. If you spend over $25, you'll get your free shipping when you get your supplements. So go to stnutrition.com. And as always, if you spend over $25, you get your free shipping. If you type in the promo code STRONG, STRONG, all podcast listeners gets 10% off your order. Go to stnutrition.com today. Check us out. Man. So if you can kind of remember, well, first, before we do all that, explain where you're at, like what your ranking and stuff is now.
Yeah, so I'm a E7 in the Air Force. That's Master Sergeant. And we go up to E9 on the enlisted side. So that's the difference. I'm on the enlisted side versus commissioned officer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, E7 master sergeant, and coming up for a promotion to E8 next year. We'll see if it works out. Then cool, I'll keep on going. If not, then we'll consider our options. I've always said I would really lean towards that 30-year career with the military, but it just, when you start having kids that are a little bit older, like Kylie's 14, about to be 15,
Yeah.
It gets a lot harder to uproot them like that. So if everybody's still ready and down, then we'll keep moving. But I think when we get to that point where we'll know it's time, where they're not happy and they want to stay put for a little bit longer, because every 3-4 years we've been just picking up and moving, so it gets tiring, I'm sure, for them, for sure.
Right.
Plan to keep going. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. So if you can remember all the way back to when you enlisted, what was the thought process going through your head? Like, what brought you to enlisting in the military, and then more specifically the Air Force?
Oh, of course, yeah. So, I was in high school when all this kind of came to me, and I was that typical teenage mindset, and I was pretty decent at athletics. Thought I was just going to be the next professional baseball player. I was just going to ride right all the way through whatever steps I had to, and I was going to play ball professionally. But I don't want to say it came to a screeching halt, but just a crazy injury that took me out of some important development period, and as a high school baseballer. And a lot of those, scouts and people that you are starting to build relationships with about possibly going and playing college ball, when you have an injury, they just kind of turn off. So I started reading the writing on the wall, just saying, hey, I got to look at some other options. And it was literally just a career fair chance happenstance where I ran into an Air Force recruiter. And then I just started to think about my family history. So, my dad, Army, mom was Marine, grandfathers, both Army, on dad's side, grandfather killed in action in World War II. So pretty thick military traditional history in the family. So I was like, hey, I never really thought about this. Started looking at it. And of course, talked to mom about it, talked to dad, and they always had my back no matter what. So I just kind of took a leap of faith and went after it. And then, bam, flashes by in the blink, and you're 20 years in. Think about what's next. So it's been crazy, but wouldn't change it at all.
Yeah, is there any moments that stick out to you that you still remember about, the enlisting and swearing in and stuff?
Yeah, I remember being at the military entrance processing station, the MEPS. And that realization moment right there, because you'll raise your right hand and do their swear-in process, right? And it starts to get real right then. But I'd say probably when I landed here in San Antonio, almost 20 years ago, I still remember that angst, that unknown energy and nervousness that you just don't know what's coming. And it happens so fast. They pick you up on a bus. It's usually late at night. They want you tired and disoriented, and they'll start yelling at you for no reason, and it moves so quick you just don't realize, you don't have time to think. And I remember that basic training moment where I could hear the click. They put a tap on their foot, and every other step, it clicks down this hallway. You could hear them coming, and I just got this super rush of adrenaline, like, here we go, this is about to get crazy. And then from there, it kicked off, and they took that punk little teenage kid and transformed me quite a bit, into a young man that had some discipline and some core values, that the Air Force will instill in you, and taught me how to be an airman. And, I just kind of took those lessons and those abilities, and you get to turn it into what you want. You use that experience and leverage it into the person that you end up becoming. And, I say it turned out okay, but I'm still learning every single day. So yeah, I still have that ability to do so. And I think it's awesome. It's been good for me. It's been good for the family. And the hardest part is, being away from loved ones, where it's not as easy to just pick up and go hang out. We still get to do it, just not as often. And I think it's okay, in a way, because we make it count, whenever we're with you guys up north, or if I'm down south, or if I'm with, Lorenza's side, we always make the most out of our time together. So I'm thankful for those benefits as well. But yeah, it's been a big transformation from a little 17-year-old Chris Rabenold. That's for sure.
So you said that your dad and your mom supported you. Did you have anyone that really tried to like discourage you from it and say, no, don't do it, anything like that?
Yeah, there was some naysayers, but not many, honestly. I had good, I guess, support in on my side and on my team. I did have a moment. I remember, so 9/11 happened right before I
Mm,
shipped to basic training. And I remember the phone call from mom that woke me up. I was sleeping at my sister, Buffy's house. I used to crash there during the week because I'd work as much as I could, try to make money. But mom woke me up to tell me what was going on, and she had this weird feeling that something crazy. And this was after the first plane hit, and then uh, while I was on the phone with her, just kind of getting oriented with the situation, and we were both watched the TV, when the second plane hit, and she just knew right away, like, hey, the Air Force that you thought you were entering is going to be a lot different. It's going to be a lot more about what's going on right now, and it really put some a little bit of fear in my process at that point, but I still knew, going in pretty quickly into the process that I made the right choice. I just didn't know how long I'd stick with it, and here we are,
yeah.
20 years past.
Were you with a lot of guys that went in because of 9/11?
Absolutely. Yeah. I recall many that had come either right after me or, even a couple years after me that were absolutely motivated to join because of that single occurrence. It really gelled our country and brought us together in such a terrible time. So there was a lot of great things that came of it, but what incredible sacrifice, that occurred to snap us out of, being so separated.
Yeah.
It was shouldn't never take that, but I think our country responded in such a patriotic way.
So how are things now? I mean, I know you can only speak for the Air Force. I don't know if you know what's going on with the other branches, but with having people enlist, is there like a still like a good amount, or is it has it trickled down a lot?
Yeah, I've noticed just in my time is, and I get to see it a lot more in the recruiting side because we get to see the direct impact and the results. And I've noticed, yeah, this generation, they're less prone to serve. They support the military. They
Mm.
absolutely do, which is great. It's just when it comes to call to service, they just say, not me. I love the people that do, but that's not me. I don't want to do it. And that's okay. There's still some patriots out there. There's still some folks that maybe have a story like mine that have a family tradition of it and they'll carry it on. It's just, we've got to do a good job of enticing and showing people that it is such a great option. There's so much you get out of it, and so much you can make of it that it is worth the sacrifices that a lot of people perceive.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it still takes the right person to make that commitment. It's a big step, and it is there's a lot of unknowns at that moment, but you can rely on people that have been there and done that to walk you through the process. So
Yeah, what were your thoughts before you even joined the military? What were your thoughts of the military?
yeah, so we always think that you think military in general, you just think here's a gun, you can dig a hole and sleep in at nighttime and you're going to shoot people.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people, think of when they think of military. They
Yeah.
don't think of all the support functions and personnel that happen to make that war fighting happen. There's so much more to, the profession of arms. There's absolute support roles. Recruiting is one of them. You have to bring people in to train to be able to do those things. And then there's teachers that have to teach these new military personnel how to do the job that they're going to come in and do. They have to continue to develop their skills and become better leaders because we all get replaced, and it's our job to just grow the next generation in our image and learn from our shortcomings and successes, and use history to kind of set yourself up for the future. And that's really how the military continues that cycle is, next person up mentality is absolutely possible. You just have to provide the right support and training, and they'll carry on. So it's a lot easier said than done, but that's really how it breaks down.
Yeah, would you say, because also I don't know how much you can say about this, is because what I've heard from other people is that, like boot camp and stuff gets easier for to cater to the kids now and stuff like that, because you got anxiety and depression are a big thing now. Um, I don't know, kids just can't take as much.
Sure. Yeah, I agree in some ways. It's still going to challenge them,
Yeah.
but we have to be able to change with each generation of youth. Otherwise, we will, we'll just fail. We won't be able to help people get in. So we have to be conscious and aware of, how today's youth are engaged, how they like to train, how they like to consume media. There's so many things that we have to continuously look at in order to connect with them, because that's what it's about. And, a lot of the old hats, and that would be me now, 20-year guy, it's harder for us to grasp that. And a lot of time it comes with frustration. So,
Mm.
but I've learned over those years, it's just a communication piece, person to person, human to human. If you treat people well, according to how they would like to be treated and prefer, then things usually end up pretty good. And I think we've learned those hard lessons along the way, but I think we're doing a good job of paying attention to how people, um, how they respond to things, how they react, and they continuously change the curriculum of basic training across all the branches. They
Yeah.
have to be able to adapt to the current generation of people. And a lot of us older people would say, yeah, they're just soft, but they're not. They're extremely skilled at maybe different things than what we do,
Mm.
but we can leverage that. The profession of arms is turning into crazy sci-fi stuff that we would think about years ago. Robots and drones shooting each other out of the sky.
Right.
That's to be able to have people that can think ahead in times like that is a unique skill set. And I think this generation they're well suited to do it. It's just we have to be able to connect with them, and that's the big
Yeah.
challenge. The older folks have a hard time.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are some things that you had that you liked adapting to military life and that you didn't like?
Yeah, so I liked. It's funny. It's hard to admit, but and I wouldn't have admitted it younger, but now it's the structure is really, really good.
Yeah.
Getting on a schedule, and I can say that anybody, if you can get into a routine and a habit of doing things, and there's some really great leadership stuff out there from a senior Navy leader about getting up and making your bed every day.
Yeah.
It's things like that that really set up your entire day, and that'll never leave you. And it's stuff that they drill into your head in basic training, and you don't know why it's important, and you think it's dumb, tedious work for no reason. But there's a lot of significance behind it. And the way I used to explain it for parents of 17-year-old young men and women that wanted to join was, hey, this is a way, basic training has a way of teaching and instilling trust in these airmen, and where we can take a 17-year-old person and trust them with an aircraft that's worth $500 million. They're the lead mechanic or electrician on it. And it's because we teach them little things in basic training about paying attention to detail and staying, being accountable for your actions, and looking out for your wingman, your teammates. If you're really good at making your bed, but the guy beside you looks like garbage, then you fail. You fail as a team. So there's a lot of things that you take from that basic training stuff that stick with you your whole life, and you realize the older you get how significant it was. That you learn those skills at such a young age. Um, but those at the time would probably be the same ones that I thought were the things I didn't like the most.
Yeah.
Was that tedious, monotonous type drills that we had to do. And I didn't, it was the first time I'd been really away from family too, for any significant time. So that was probably the biggest adjustment. But it ended up being a blessing at the same time. I got to be in some cool places, and where typically I would come home for holidays, I started having family or friends want to come see me because I was in a place they'd never been, or, they like to get out and travel, which was cool for me. So still take the time off and then show them around, where I live and all the cool things I'm learning about that culture and area. But the things that probably started as inconveniences for me ended up turning into things that I appreciated. So it's kind of a two-way approach on any of those. So
Yeah, definitely. And then you said that you met your wife in one of the places that you were stationed at. So how did that happen?
yeah, so man, it was a funny story. I remember I was in tech school. So Cannon Air Force Base is in the middle of nowhere, really. It's right across the border of Texas in the Panhandle area. It's a high desert area, and I didn't know a lot of that. I just knew that hey, I'd been assigned to Cannon Air Force Base, and I had a tech school instructor in Mississippi when I was in radar school. Was like, oh, Cannon, there's a beautiful woman behind every tree out there. So I was real excited about heading out there. Um, Showed up late at night, woke up the next morning, and there's no trees, man. There's just none. It's flat and barren. And I was like, oh man, I get his joke now. I was wondering why he was laughing about it. But I joked that at least I found a bush because Lorenzo, she's kind of short, but I found a beautiful one behind a bush out there. But yeah, it ended up being just a local person that I met in a couple different settings. I was only 18, about to be 19 when I first met her that I can recall. And I know we had crossed paths a few times at like the mall. It's a small town, so man, you go to the restaurant, a certain restaurant more than twice, then you probably know half the town. So, started striking up conversations, and here we are, 20 years later, married, 4 kids.
Was she's not part of like a military family, is she?
No, no, her
Okay, so that was
father.
new. That was new to her.
Yeah, it was new. So there was some adjustment on her part. She was familiar with the military because she had, she was born and up to that point had lived in Clovis, New Mexico for that period of her life. So she was familiar with the people coming and going, from the base, especially as she got a little older into high school and stuff. But yeah, it was an adjustment for her getting married, and it was one of the reasons why that we decided to get married was to make sure we could stay together, and that's how our relationship progressed. And it was one of those moments. Dad was ready to retire, so he was selling the country club there. He owned the golf course and all that stuff. Sold it out of New Mexico, and it was time to leave. And I was like, well, no, I want you to stay here. So that was kind of our plan. And then that deployment to Iraq was, one other way to get her safely kind of cared for while I was gone. She stayed with family in Florida. And then when I came back, we had that wedding down there, and then moved back to New Mexico for a short period. And then off we went to recruiting. So,
Yeah. So how long were you in Iraq for?
so I was in Iraq for, back then we had 4-month deployments and 6-month deployments. And I got tagged for a 4-month. It was funny. I volunteered for it. And I remember the day I got the opportunity, I called Lorenzo on the phone. I'm like, hey, babe, I got a call from our chief. He said there's a deployment tasker coming up, and if I wanted to volunteer for it, I could go. I was like, what do you think? And she was cool. She's like, yeah, I support, because I've been telling her, I was like, since 9/11, I want to go over there and do my part and be a part of that. And I didn't know if I'd get selected for it, but she said, she gave me the blessing. So I called the chief right back, and I said, hey, chief, the wife says I'm good. I'll take that assignment if I can get it. And he was like, boom, it's done. I didn't have any other volunteers, so you're in. And she called me right back. Is it too late? She started thinking about it and got nervous immediately because it was real, but it was already set in stone. So it wasn't that bad. I joked with her when I landed over there. This is like January. I called back, and the terrain looks exactly like Clovis, New Mexico. I was like, I don't think I left. People smell worse, I guess. But all the terrain looks the same. It was funny, but it wasn't a bad assignment. I can imagine now deployments are probably a little bit easier. Just with the technology, we could Zoom and tuck in kids every night, I think, over there if we had the right setup. But back then it was just a phone call. I could talk to her for a few minutes at a time and then try to catch up with her a few days down the road or week. So communication was tough. And then, we didn't have any kids. So I just think now a deployment would be a lot more difficult when you've got little ones, for sure. That would be very, very tough.
Yeah, what was the like dealing with your, like extended family, like your dad and everything, like telling them that you were going to Iraq?
Yeah, I broke the news to him basically as soon as I found out, like, hey, I'm going to be going to Iraq. And of course, we were pretty heavily still engaged in fighting and activity there. Um, and I wasn't allowed to give a lot of specifics about where I was going. I could just say,
Hmm.
it's in this part of Iraq, it's about this a couple hours from Baghdad. And, um, just for operational security and stuff like that. But kept it vague, but explained to them as soon as I could that I was going to have to deploy for a couple months, and it would go by quick. But I had training, I had stuff I had to do. So as soon as I got tasked, I started doing all the extra training that they give you for preparing to deploy to a combat zone. So, but it was good skills to learn, and I had enough lead out time where everybody got to come out and kind of see me off. So I remember dad came out and mom and Jason came out. So I had some family come out and just see me off right before I deployed. So it was good. I knew you get a lot of emotions when you do stuff like that because you
Yeah.
don't know. You don't ever hope or anticipate anything bad would happen, but you just know the chances or odds are probably a lot higher when you go do something like that. So it was tough. It was tough to say those goodbyes, but we had a mission to do, and it worked out good. It was a great experience for me. If you've never been to like a third world country like that, it's very eye opening and makes you appreciate the real tiny things that you take for granted. Um, running water and electricity being two big ones, but it was eye opening for me and gave me a little bit more perspective on how blessed we are,
Yeah.
in our country. So, um, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be either. So I ended up having fun. I made career and lifelong friends over there, and even some of the locals that I established relationships with and working with every day
Hmm.
seemed like great people. It was a cool experience, and we helped a lot of great people over there. I was there during their very first elections, so there was a lot of tense moments, with trying to discourage people to go and vote, but they showed
Right.
up. That country was, uh, they were thankful we were there and wanted to do things the right way. So it was pretty neat experience for sure.
Yeah, what was kind of like your mindset? Like, of course, you already knew because you volunteered. You knew that that's something that you wanted to do. But then you kind of start to think a little bit, you know, because of again, it's the fear of the unknown. You don't know that you're going to have a good time. You don't know what you're going to be doing over there. What was kind of going through your head after you had volunteered to go?
Yeah, for sure. It's those unknown moments can really cause some issues in your mind
Mm.
where you're just not sure. But I'd say the training that they provide was just so phenomenal at putting you in the right mindset and being able to react to any situation. The type of training that they give was just superb. How to handle yourself in any given situation, and how you can always lean on those skills and that knowledge. So I felt absolutely prepared, but it doesn't change the fact that when you walk in and you land, and you jump off of a moving plane, uh, things just they crank up a few notches. But you always bounce back to that training, and that's why I've always appreciated how well the Air Force trains their people. Is they prepare you for that stuff, and no matter what happens, you respond according to the way you're trained. And they go over a lot of scenarios and what ifs just to put your mind down those roads. So if you ever faced with them physically in the moment, you'll already know kind of how to respond or how you should.
Right.
So yeah, I felt pretty prepared, but it was a little uneasy heading in there for sure.
Yeah, is there anything that sticks out about your deployment that you kind of always remember when you think about it?
Yeah, it was a lot about the people over there.
Hmm.
How I used to get frustrated that what you would see in the news and the media was all like
Yeah.
just negative stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
I saw so many heartwarming moments and amazing things that were happening between American um, military personnel and the local communities. whether we're helping them build a school or hold their very first elections or feed people that are starving, give water to and fruit to children, that are malnourished. There was so many great things that occurred while I was there, but no one ever heard about that stuff. It doesn't make the juicy, dramatic news footage. No one wants to see us handing out a case of water, to a nomad family that has no support anywhere, that are running from, insurgents and trying not to get caught up in all that chaos. So
Yeah.
you don't get to see that as much, but that's really what I took from it, is that those people were um, good people that wanted help and wanted to make their country and their lives better. I took that away and it stuck with me for a long time.
Do you see that a lot in recruits? Do you see more fear, or do you see more like, hey, I want to go and do this, or is it kind of both?
Yeah, we get both.
Yeah.
You'll see some that are, considering military that probably have some fear of that unknown. And that's where experience comes in really well, or being able to connect them with people that have kind of been through that path. And all of us have at some point. So we can share our own experience and our stories from our time, growing into where we are at that point. But yeah, we get them both. We get some that are just, I'm ready to go. I just want to do this. Um, they go charging right in, and some that are reluctant but know that it's a great option and they're willing to take the chance. And I keep up with them all, both versions, and they always come back just really glad that they made that choice. Some that they wish they made it sooner, um, but it is rewarding. That's what I like the most about being in recruiting and why I've stuck with it for so long. Is it's really awesome to see people go off and change so much and then come back and really thank you and keep up with their progress. So it's really cool.
Yeah, because it made me think like nowadays there's so many former military, former like Navy SEALs and stuff with podcasts, and you hear the way they talk about it, and for some people it might just scare the crap out of them, but then for others it really makes them like full force want to just jump in without even thinking about it. You know what I mean? Because they just feel that motivation. I know that's how I was.
Mm-hmm.
I just had that motivation, and then I knew I couldn't do anything else, so I was like, hey, let's try this. But it ended up not being for me, I guess. But is does that lead a lot of people in there, like the stuff that they hear today?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of testimonials and stories that come out of more well-known battles or scenarios or events that happen, and then you find out after the fact that this SEAL person was on the raid that caught Bin Laden or
Yeah.
something like that. And you hear those stories and they're so intense, but I try to share the other perspective that there's many in the Air Force and all the branches that maybe haven't deployed at all in a 20-year career, because there are those elements of what we do in the military. The people that are charging, headlong into intense firefights and stuff like that. And there's so many other aspects that have not a lot to do with stuff like that. Maybe as intense, but in humanitarian side. You think of a massive earthquake that happened in Haiti, and the Air Force deploys with other special forces and rescue personnel, and their skills allow them to bring in aircraft and fly supplies and set up emergency portable hospitals. And I'd say a lot of our efforts and energy go towards those humanitarian aspects of things that are unexpected, but we're trained to respond to. So we support so many things like that. But a lot of people, Hollywood, it's not as cool to watch a movie about
Right.
an Air Force special ops team that saved a bunch of people because of an earthquake versus because of bad guys, that are shooting stuff. So I get it, but I try to share that there's so much more to the military than just kicking in a door and trying to find bad people.
Right.
There's so many cool things that we take a part of and really help the world with, that go unnoticed or really just aren't as I guess, dramatized, in Hollywood type stuff. But
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Is it kind of hard? Because I'm sure you get people asking you like questions about your like military service of being with the Air Force or deploying to Iraq and all these other things. Is it hard to talk about that kind of stuff?
I mean, not for me. It's not. I think that's an individual thing. Some
Yeah.
people, maybe if they had seen a lot more. I think that's what was good about our shorter deployments too. Is the longer you're over there, the more that you get kind of wrapped up in that lifestyle and that edge and intensity that your head's always on a swivel and you're always expecting some kind of explosion or ambush or something like that. I think extended periods of that can really take a toll on people's mental um, kind of health. So, and we've learned that, PTSD is such an important and massive thing that we need to understand more of.
Yeah.
But I think those shorter deployments help us in the Air Force. But I think that because we're learning a lot more about it too, we're able to cope with it a lot easier. But um, there are times where just being in that experience will you'll start to go back into those moments where things were intense, and I think it wears people down. So um, we see a lot of turnover in those high speed career fields where they're just the intensity is just up to 11 all the time, and that takes a toll on the mind and body for sure. So I'd say if anybody, we're so amazing at supporting that and giving them the assistance to recharge and recuperate, and think we do a great job at it. But we're learning so much more as we go. Um, we're going to continue to adapt and try to take care of folks the best way we can. But those are some of the
Yeah.
things that people think about as well, when they're considering pursuing something like that. It's something I'm sure it sticks in their mind often.
Yeah, and again, like you said, it depends on the person and what people will do for their mental health and trying to just find something to cope with it. You know, is there anything like, yeah, you probably haven't dealt with what some of the other guys have had to deal with, but I'm sure you've had mental struggles like within your 20 years there. You know what I mean? What's kind of something that you do to help yourself like mentally?
Yeah, definitely. So I think you got to find something that you're into a little bit. And I kind of discovered some stuff along the way. Some people it's working out intense, going for a run or a jog or lifting weights, doing something that really expends energy and takes your mind off of, thoughts that you're trying to clear. So it is an individual type process, but I got into doing like little woodworking projects and stuff like that. And the amount of focus and attention I had to put into it it was cathartic. It's relaxing and fun despite buzzing saw blades.
Yeah.
So to me, it's, you got your hearing protection on and you're just so zoned into that moment. I think it was really good for me. So gave me something to dive into and be, so intensely focused on that. I think it helped me. So I like gaming, video games. I haven't done that as much. The older I get, I think the less I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I did that a lot too. And sometimes just good family time, hanging out with kids and going and doing stuff that, you don't get to do all the time, and looking for moments of excitement and happiness in their eyes and their experience. I think that's what I took so much from being a father was seeing my kids kind of develop and grow and experience things that I did, coming up as a kid. And those are big things, big moments that you can't really capture, but when you feel it and notice it, you're like, wow, that's really cool. And it really helps you forget about all the crap that's in your mind. You focus on what matters, and overall, health wise, you feel a lot better after doing stuff like that. So I think it's important to find something for any of us to really that you enjoy doing and that can put focus into and energy and effort, and then good things usually happen. And then again, there's a lot of cool support out there too if it's not enough,
Right.
because some people they can't or maybe they slip back into a bad place just too quick or too easy. And I think in that case, you just got to keep looking for other options. There's so much support out there, and sometimes it's a phone call to a friend or family, that just you want to vent to or talk to, and uh, you got to have stuff like that in your life. So that stuff is so important to for all of us. You hate to see that people struggle with things mentally, but it's so
Yeah.
common now. And like you said, COVID forced that. Taking people away
Oh
from
yeah.
people has been a massive challenge across the planet. So um, it's concerning, but I just hope that people would know that there's plenty of support out there. They just got to reach out and ask, or don't be afraid to. It's not going to affect you. It used to be a negative stigma for the
Yeah.
military. Is common. A lot of people would say, well, if I ask for mental health assistance, then it's going to be a flag on my record and no one's going to want to work with me, or I'm not going to get promoted, or um, and even then that wasn't even a real thing. It was just kind of a preconceived notion that everybody had.
Hmm.
uh, but again, like, we've learned so much about that stuff in the mental health world, that we know that supporting people and giving them tools to help themselves allows them to get right back into the job, like it
Hmm.
never even happened. So, but being able to recognize those things in each other is important too. So, when someone's down, you gotta just engage them and chat with them. And a lot of times, sometimes that's all they need.
Yeah, man. And I love talking about like what goes on in people's minds. Like that's why I ask you a lot. Like, what was your mindset going into these things? And because it's all about how you prepare yourself mentally and how you deal with things mentally. And now we're in a time where it's just becoming more outspoken and people are now starting to talk about it. Whereas, like you said before, maybe like back in like our grandfather's days or whatever, they'd be called a little girl for dealing, for talking about that or something of that nature. But yeah, I think it's important to be just talk about it and don't be afraid. Like for me, I wear my heart on my sleeve, man. Like if I feel a certain way, some people are gonna know.
Yeah,
I'm not afraid to cry or whatever, but I'm one of those guys that, I feel like I'm tough. I feel like I'm a manly guy. But yeah, dude, if I need to cry, I'll cry. You know?
absolutely, nothing wrong with that. I remember as a young man, I used to think, because I know his dad was always emotional about stuff, always.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, why is he always crying? Like, but I learned it's not. It's actually a strength of character, not
Yeah.
a weakness. So, um, you learn, the older you get, the more sentimental you get about it. Literally everything, uh, with kids especially, or loved ones, or just getting older, you just take more appreciation and more meaning out of things that you don't when you're young. You just don't think like that. So it's interesting to see the development of our brains and our minds as we grow older. But yeah, it's fascinating for me, because I remember being the young punk. That's just how I would explain myself. Just why this isn't sad, this is happy. But
Yeah.
now I know why. It's not a sad tear or reaction. It's a pride. So proud you're crying. That's huge. Those are moments in life that uh, they make you feel a way that you can't capture. If you could sell it and become a billionaire.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the way you feel. You'll never forget the way you feel in certain moments.
Mm.
Um, you just won't. You won't ever forget the feelings that you have when things happen. So it's important to understand that, and I wish we could nail that into younger people's minds. But that's a big challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's something the military does great, like especially with basic training, is because I'm sure you have guys and girls that go in there thinking like, oh, I'm an athlete, I can do this, this, and that. I'm tough, I can do this, this, and that. But then once they get there, it really humbles them. You know?
Yep, it will knock you back down, because it's what they're good at. They break everybody down to where it's one of the reasons why they shave everyone's head completely bald.
Right.
You lose that identity. That's just one piece, and then shortly after that, you go from wearing your civilian clothes that you brought with you to uniforms, and it starts to kind of solidify and mold a single unit from a bunch of individuals and creating a team. And it's so powerful the way that people progress through that. Now it's 8.5 week program, or it's so incredible to watch. We call them 0 week trainees. The first week they're walking around and all different types of clothing and longer hair or whatever their hair was when they joined. And then they transition into that first week of training and they're getting uniforms and they're getting their haircuts and everybody looks the same. And they start to teach you what it means to be a team and a family and support each other and learn, what it is to be an airman and a leader. And it's amazing to watch that transition. So a few short weeks later, they're just absolutely firing on all cylinders together, all got each other's backs. It's amazing. It's amazing to see. And I've spent some time over at Lackland side now. So I'm at Randolph Air Force Base now, it's about 40-minute drive across on the other side of San Antonio,
Okay.
From where Lackland is. But it was cool to be over there for about 6-7 weeks teaching class where I would drive in early in the morning and see all the trainees out running around on the fitness pads and running around the tracks and yelling out their little jodies and being all proud of the team they're becoming. So it was pretty cool to see, a little nostalgic and exciting. It's cool.
Is fitness a big thing in the military? Is that like, because I know it is during basic training, but what about after that?
Yeah. So, it's just part of being ready to respond to anything. You got to take care of your physical fitness and your health. And if you don't, and something happens and we have to rely on you to go over there and do stuff that is mentally and physically challenging, you have to be prepared or we suffer risk of failure. So they keep it in our I guess in our minds, in the front of our minds. We have to do regular fitness testing at least once a year. And the way they score it is it's a 75 or higher. You meet the passing minimums. If you're not a 90 or above, then you have to test twice a year. So they want you to really pay attention to that. But it's good and bad in some ways. After 20 years of it, I feel like my body broke down a lot quicker than I probably would have if I wasn't pushing to grind out runs and push-ups and sit-ups, a couple times a year. But overall, though, I think it's designed the right way to just keep you healthier and ready for challenges that being in the military can bring you at a moment's notice. So it is a big step of progressing and staying in the Air Force. You got to take care of yourself and you got to keep proving that you're physically fit and capable of doing these jobs. So I think they do a good job with it. They've changed some things more recently, like literally in the last month or plus. They've done a lot of changes to our physical fitness scoring and methods, but the intent's still there. It's just maintain good physical fitness.
Right.
Because they know it's important for so many things, including mental health, just taking care of yourself. But yeah, it's an important thing from day one basic training all the way till you retire. It's definitely significant.
I don't know if you ever get this question, but like, do you get people that quit? You know what I mean? Like they make it all the way there and they just say, nope, I can't do this. Or does it have to be more than that?
No, it's, they're few and far between. There's people that get into basic training and get eliminated because we can identify that they're not a good fit for the military, or they're just not, grasping the material and responding the way they should. And this, after years and years of bringing millions of airmen in and out of this program, they uncover things and trends and indicators that indicate and show whether or not this person's going to be successful. And they've even taken it as far as, tailored personality assessments where they know if you score a certain score in this personality test, then your chance of succeeding in a certain career field is a certain percent. So it's pretty wild how they've been able to use analytics and research and studies over the years to determine, success probabilities of every career field in the Air Force. So but it's always evolving because people change. The entire pool of people that were enlisting is changing. So those types of things have to continue to evolve with it. But there's plenty of that come in and just aren't, maybe they second guess themselves. And sometimes so much that they're like, I don't want to be in the Air Force. I want out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just, you got to find out why. You got to talk to them. Sometimes it's like the first time they've ever been away from home. Maybe they left a loved one that's sick and they just got it on their mind. And they think if they just tell them, I don't want to do this, I got to get out of here, I need to go home. But a lot of times it's just talking to them and seeing where they're at mentally and why they're feeling the way they are. And a lot of times they're really good at just kind of letting them refocus on the reason why they're there.
Yeah.
And motivating them to finish it and then reevaluate. And if they do that, they never look back. They just don't. Those first 2 weeks are tough because it's new and you're learning stuff and they're yelling at you all the time. You don't know why, but it clicks. About 2 weeks in, you're like, oh, so if I help the person beside me and we all do stuff the right way, then no one gets yelled at. This is crazy. So you start to pick up on things, and the evolution of civilian to airman is incredible. But there are those that come in that just aren't a fit, and they separate them and send them back home if that's the way it is. But they give them every chance, to succeed, and they want them to, because at that point, there's a lot of effort, money, time spent to get them into that moment right there. So They don't want to just cut everybody loose that says, this isn't what I thought it was. They talk to them about why they feel that way and then try to help them get past it. And if they can't, then they'll send them home.
Yeah. So what is some advice that you would give someone, and I'm sure you probably tell the people, that you talk to that, come to enlist, about joining the Air Force?
Yeah, I'd just say, do your research. Be careful about your sources. Again, it's kind of the way we are in this time, but a lot of people like to share the negative aspects of their experience. A lot of people don't go out of their way to share the positives. I wish it was the other way around, but that's just the way it is. It's human nature as we know it right now. But you can find the best and worst reasons to go join the Air Force or any branch. It's just it's an individual decision and an individual kind of approach that I think everybody should take. You can listen to others' experiences and listen to their recommendations, but only if it's the right option,
Right.
And if you're on the fence about it, but you've done your research and it all sounds good, you're just it takes courage. Yeah. You just have to take the leap of faith. If you feel that it is a good option, but you're nervous or scared to pull the trigger and jump right in, then it's something you got to work on. But really try to find the support team around you. It's easy for recruiters because, we're supposed to support you when you make that decision, and they're going to. But you can look for others that are, there's so much communication out there where you can find people that maybe are even leaving at the same time as you, that you're both having the same thoughts and both feeling the same way. And then reach out to somebody who maybe just graduated and can say, man, it's not as hard as all of us think it is. And, trust your gut. I'd say that is pretty good. Don't let one thing or one situation turn you on or off from it. Just take it all as it is and know that if you're going into it for the right reasons, right motivations or right results that you're seeking, then it's the powers in your court. You're controlling the ball, and you'll be able to take advantage of so many opportunities that you probably weren't even aware of. And even now, 20 years in, I'm still learning things that we have benefits of and can utilize that I know I didn't know. So there's so much there. And no matter what your motivation is, if you're looking for something steady, a good job, decent pay, great benefits, free education, whatever it may be, it's there for you. And a lot of people think you're just this robot that goes wherever they tell you to. In some ways, yeah, sure. You have to move or you have to go to a certain base if you're stationed or assigned there. But what you do with it is up to you. You know, where you want to chase your career or educational path is totally up to you. And I had a leader that told me, it stuck with me forever. I wrote it down the first time I ever heard her say it. She was a longtime recruiter, and then she was a drill instructor or military training instructor in basic training. And she's still now on like maybe her third or fourth command chief position. Phenomenal leader, Katie McCool, Chief McCool, and her husband, retired Chief Chris McCool, was actually my recruiting school instructor back in '06. So I've kept in touch with that family. But I had her speak at one of our events one time, and we asked her about. I think it started with this generation of airmen. You know, they like to complain a lot, but as everyone does. But she said whenever she'd hear somebody talk about getting thrown into a situation that they didn't want to do, or maybe with the military, you get stationed somewhere you didn't want to necessarily go, but they needed you. She said, in life or in the Air Force or in any moment, you don't always get to pick the stage, right? You don't get to pick where you're going to have to do something, especially in the Air Force, and especially in recruiting. But the things you can control is the performance. So you don't get to pick the stage, but you get to pick the performance. So no matter where you go and what you do, your actions and the results that come from that are what people are going to respond to and remember, and what you're going to take from it as well down the road. So it stuck with me for a long time. It was very powerful in my mindset at that point. I was like, man, I wish so many people could hear that. You don't always get to pick, you know, where and what you're doing in life, but how you perform and how you react to the things you can control are really what matter. And that's where the cream rises to the top, man. It just does.
Yeah.
The best people will stand out no matter where they go if they just have the right attitude about it. So I just took that as attitude's everything, and anywhere you go and whatever you do, if you do it the right way, the right intentions, and take care of people around you, then things usually turn out pretty awesome. So,
yeah, I like that, because that's what I kind of do with in my life. You know, if I'm here in this moment, you know, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to the best of my ability, you know, no matter what it is, because if I'm here, I might as well do something great or do it well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. If it's worth you doing it, you might as well do it all the way.
Exactly. But Chris, man, I thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun. It's a good conversation. Miss you guys. Maybe we'll get to do one in person one day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, tell
sister of mine.
Yeah, tell Carly we said happy birthday.
Oh, thanks so much, man. We love you guys. We miss you.
Man, we love you.
Hope we'll get to you soon, man.
Yeah, man, definitely. All
Later,
right,
bro.
Take it easy.